actually going to go in and look at more about what it's like to start making a report from scratch. We mentioned that Alma has a bunch of canned reports they've already created, but all of us found the experience that it was actually easier to understand how things worked to start by going in and making things from scratch, rather than looking at these already created reports. Once you learn the basics, then it can be helpful. You look at the canned reports to learn a little bit more complicated things that you can do. But we're going to start from scratch. Feel free to go into Alma. I think right now I'm going to go slightly fast right now because this is still sort of demo stage, but after the break, we're going to go a lot more slowly, like start a report from scratch and kind of go at a pace where you can be creating that report yourself at the same time. So as Kim said earlier, the way to create a new report is to go to the menu bar under New, and when you click on that, the top choice is Analysis, and then you get a choice of all of your subject areas. And this link here is actually exactly the same link that Joe gave you, where you get a lot more detail. And not only do you get those definitions of what each subject area is, but if you click on one of those in the Alma document, the Ex Libris documentation, it actually says exactly every descriptive field or measurement field. It says exactly what that's referring to. So if you're not sure, it's a great place to really dive into the details. Okay, and actually I'm just going to go right into analytics instead of doing this here. One little aside, so when you first open up analytics, like you're in Alma, you click on that analytics and then design analytics, it's supposed to log you in automatically. If for some reason your previous logout didn't quite work, or if you timed out, you might get to a point where the screen just asks you to log in, and none of us actually have a separate login. So if that happens, you just close the tab, go back to Alma, and do it again. So just a heads up if that happens. It's not a big deal. Just start over. Okay, so we're going to go to a new analysis, and I'm going to choose, for right now, physical items. Being a cataloger, this tends to be the one that I know the best. I use this all the time. So on the left, you see all that stuff that Joe was just talking about, all of your various folders. So fact, dimension, and measurements, and descriptive fields. In the top section, this is where we're going to put all of the fields that we want to work with. And the bottom section are filters. We're not going to get to filters until the afternoon. Or, sorry, not the afternoon, after the break, the late morning. Okay, and basically to add a field over here, all you have to do is click and drag. So we are going to start with, I'm going to start with library unit and library name. So click and drag. The tabs you see here, for now, the ones you're going to use the most often, criteria and results. Criteria is what we're in right now, and that's where you do all of your editing. And results is kind of like a preview of what you're going to see or is how you run the report and see what you get. So we've just put one single column in there. I'm going to click on results. And voila, we get a list of all of our library names. So that was extremely simple. One column, one set of results. We're going to also later in the morning, we're going to talk about formatting, so I'm not worrying about that at all. Okay, I'm going to add a second column. Oops. Location name. And again, you just click and drag. Very easy. Click on results. So now suddenly we have a much longer list. Well, it's not as bad as Wesleyan. It's a good thing we're in con. Wesleyan have way too many locations. So you notice something interesting. Because there are multiple locations in each library, you have multiple lines next to each library. So your results suddenly got a lot longer. And Alma sort of by default does this interesting thing where it sort of merges. Like if this was an Excel file, you'd say essentially all these fields right here just got merged. When we get to formatting, we're going to show you how you can unmerge that and have like every line, because Kim and I both noticed when you export an analytics analysis into Excel and you have those cells are all merged, it's really clunky to deal with in Excel. Often you can't sort the way you want to. So when we get to formatting, we're definitely going to show you how to do that. Okay, I'm going to add a couple more columns. So we're going to add number of items. Whoops. See, I can't do that here because I'm in the results tab. I have to go back to criteria to actually do any editing of the columns and the data. So we're going to do number of items in the repository. Whoop. Okay, take a look at this. So now we just have a count. This is exactly how many things you have in each of those locations. Looks like the circ desk has a lot of stuff. The stacks, music stacks, unsurprisingly has a huge amount, as does probably Shane stacks. Whoops, I don't know your location codes as well. Anyway, so descriptive fields, numbers, and I'm going to add one more. I'm going to add item material type. So we're in the physical item details folder. Oops, there it is. I'm going to have to go back to criteria. I keep on forgetting to do that. Okay, and I'm going to click and drag material type over. And because each location probably has several material types, now you see how our locations have expanded to then lead to several lines because each location has different material types. Let's see. Okay, and one more thing. So this is a little crazy, and hopefully I can undo it. Just a reminder, so if you haven't added filters yet, you could potentially get a whole lot of data. So if I go here and add title, oh, back to criteria. It's going to give, because we haven't done any filtering, it's going to give us every single title in Alma. It's physical. And if I click on results, it's probably going to take a long time to run. And even once it does run, I mean, it's going to be, thousands, tens of thousands of lines, which is kind of ridiculous. So it's just a good idea to remember to be careful before you click the results tab. If you're going to do any filtering, you probably want to do that first before you click results. So I think it's going to let me just go back. And then you can, if you want to undo stuff, you can delete any column. Now it's gone. So we're back to the way it was before. Joe mentioned that sometimes the individual fields in analytics don't quite match up with what you expect from Alma. So he mentioned the POL line number versus POL line reference. Another really weird one under bibliographic detail, and there are probably others that you'll discover over time. In Alma, when you're doing an advanced search for title, they use the word creator to refer to any kind of author. I think they're using that more general term so that you also think about composers or directors or editors or whatever. It's looking for those who like Mark, the 1XX or 7XX fields. Took me a while to discover in analytics, creator is actually the creator of the record, so it's the operator. And then author is what looks at the 100 and 700 fields. So you're going to come across little quirks like that. When you don't get results you expect, you can sort of investigate a little bit and see what you're really getting. What else? Okay. I think that's it for right now. Okay, that's it for right now. Do you have any questions about just this short little demo about the basics of creating a new report or new analysis? I think we tend to use analysis and report sort of interchangeably.
I'm used to calling it report in Voyager.
Yeah, so they essentially mean the same thing.
Were you supposed to show them how to save and all that, or is that another section?
I mean, that's a good question. Todd is going to talk a lot more about saving, but I think it's not a bad idea. I'll show you briefly about saving, and then we'll get into more detail. Basically, there's two buttons. One is save. This one over here is save as. So for now, I'm just going to save it. Oh, Joe, it's going to go into your folder.
That's fine.
So we'll just call it. Okay. Especially, so right after, we're going to right now just show you some reports that each of us has created, just to kind of show you some of the things that are possible. And again, it'll be sort of quick, and then the hands-on part will come, well, then we'll have a break, and then the hands-on portion will come after that. Yes?
So your example there, it has a very nice logic, right? Like
Yeah.
the biggest one, and then you have your unit. And so I'm presuming that you need to be really mindful of that when you create an analysis.
Yes.
Right? Because otherwise, your data could look really weird.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
You are absolutely. I'm going to show you an example here. And this was something I'd talk about more when we get to format or to formatting things. But so we're in criteria. You can move these things. Let's see. How does this? Yeah. You can move these things around. Let me actually move this here. But moving it in criteria does not move it in results.
Oh.
But I'm going to show you. So then you have to move it here too. So you can actually do some editing in results. So now I'm going to move material type, oops, right there. And now look what happened. So now, before we had a location had several material types, now one material type has several locations. So it's true, you have to be mindful about what you want on the left, because that influences what things sort of group together. But you can move things around, you just have to remember to do it in both places. Other questions?
Can I mention one more thing?
Yeah.
Which might come up later. You can show things in criteria and then hide them in the results
Yes.
if you wanted to do that. Maybe that's something that's going to come up later.
Yeah, probably when we talk about formatting. But yes, there are definitely things that you can show or hide. When we talk about filtering, you can filter in a field and then delete it from view, and that filter still operates. So there's a lot of interesting things so that you actually get a report that really looks the way you want it to, but you still gotten all the data and limited the data the way that you want to. We'll definitely show examples of that. Anything else for now? Okay, we're going to show you some examples of some slightly more complicated. I'm going to go ahead and save this one more time. Some other reports, and who's going first?
Rebecca, where does it go when you save it?
I happen to save this one. I'll hit save as just so you can see. I happen to save this. You get, you can see that catalog view where you could expand all these folders. For the short term, I saved it in, we're in Joe's account right now. I saved it in his private folder. So nobody else could look at that report now. Nobody else can edit it. Todd at some point is going to talk a lot more about all these shared folders. And so if you want other people to get to your report, either run it or edit it or something like that, it'll be in one of the shared folders.
So when Joe wants to view that report again, so he's logging into Alma, where does he go to see that?
He has to go into analytics.
Can you show us?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so let's go back to home. So now it's in the catalog. So there's my folders. I think so far he has everything just in the top level of the folder. I named it Training Basic Physical Items. This is a really good thing that we're showing this. If you hit open, you've essentially just run it, but you see you don't have your tabs anymore. So it's actually, this is just almost like a view only. You can't edit here so much. If you want to get, so if, let me go back. Catalog. So if I hit edit, we get to what we were looking at before. And actually, I think it's a setting, when you hit edit, depending on what your settings are, it could actually go to the results tab instead of the criteria tab. We've changed, I think we've ended up changing ours so that it goes straight to criteria. So this results, it's almost like a preview version of the report. Whereas when you went into catalog and you just hit open, that's like the final view. Does that make sense?